Okay, we're officially in two places now. And look at that, more people. So welcome. This is the first of two December prayer sessions because why not? It's December. We missed November. A lot of gratitude giving. And I felt like I didn't get the adequate chance to give gratitude with all of you. So yeah, why not? Today's session is how gratitude lights up our life because for me, these holidays are all about really awesome lights on all of the buildings. And I thought, why not kind of like decorate our lives that way? Right? Makes sense. So recently someone was kind of asking me, first they were asking me, they said, do you like decorate for Christmas or like put up decorations or get a tree or it was like oddly specific, the whole. And so it took me a second to really think about it. And then I replied, I said, this question sounds a little bit like a trap. Like, am I walking into a trap or no? And they were saying they just were wondering if I did ever, how did I connect Christmas and Bhakti Yoga? Like, how did that work out for me? And so I kind of deliberated on that for a little while and I wound up telling my sister, it's like, I'm not really an official authority of anything other than like myself and my 10-year-old. Like I'm an authority there, but everywhere else I was like, I'm not really an official authority. And she's like, well, I don't think they're asking you to be. Sometimes people need ideas and so, after thinking about it, I finally responded. I said, well, first things first, I can only speak for myself and in no official capacity for anything. Except for Achyuta Gopi and the Govinda Prayer Ministry. But other than that, I said for me, I've always liked to get to the core of any festival, which is about the people. And so for me, it was all about figuring out, okay, everybody came for this birthday or like this labor and delivery. And that's amazing. We see that with the lives of Shri Krishna, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all of the different Vaishnavas within Chaitanya Leela. Like, this is where we see those kinds of gatherings. But now it was somewhere else in a different faith. So it made me like interested, like, okay, what happened? What made this little baby so special? And then looking at the character, the humility, the surrender, willingness to serve in whatever capacity possible. Looking at that example of Jesus kind of made it impossible not to equate this day with the joy that we would feel on any other like Vyas Puja. And so usually on Christmas, I wind up wishing the rest of the internet a happy Vyas Puja. Because if we think about it, it's like the biggest worldwide Vyas Puja that anybody has ever had. Like somehow or other. Like Jesus has a bigger Vyasa Puja than even Jayapataka Maharaj. And that's big. Like that's saying something. So, if we think of it that way, then it's not separate from bhakti. Not something that now has to be connected. The teachings of bhakti are encapsulated in this third verse of Shikshastakam, right? This gratitude, humility, offering respects to others, expecting none in return, being able to associate with God constantly. This is absolutely Jesus. Absolutely. That level of humility and compassion is rarely seen. Really willing to throw himself in front of any and all obstacles for anyone who even once just decided to. And, it kind of sounds aggressive nowadays when you hear Christians say it. It's like, repent, welcome Jesus into your life, save yourself. It gets a little forceful, but really, how is that different from what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asking, begging? Just once, take the name of Krishna. Bring Krishna into your heart, simply, and then acknowledge that Krishna is your mother, Krishna is your father, Krishna is the very treasure of your life. Speak the name of Krishna, teach others about Krishna, don't criticize others. And in this way, don't worry, I'll handle everything and take you back home, back to Godhead. This is completely non-different. So, in looking at the fact that the message is completely the same, Christmas for me became another day to honor an acharya. And Srila Prabhupada always called him a Shakti-avesh avatar. So, specifically empowered for this purpose. Just so we have some context, other Shakti-avesh avatars include Parshuram. Would we find out that it's Parshuram's birthday and think, no, I can't worship that, totally different mood? Or do we, looking at the personality of Parshuram, say, it's worthy, it's enough for me to offer my respects this day. It's enough for me to honor the day. So for me, that's what Christmas has kind of been like. An opportunity to really honor that day. And some people are like, oh, but it's shouldn't be about consumerism. No, it shouldn't. But do we have a problem buying the people that we love gifts? I mean, so, and it shouldn't be all about that. So I try and balance it out with the lessons but really, honestly, we should be grateful for every person, because that's the crux of this exchange, isn't it? So Rupa Goswami, right? Giving gifts, receiving gifts, one of the 6 exchanges of devotees. It's like essential for spiritual life. So seems like shouldn't be a problem. And so as for saying like, oh, but is it in the name of Jesus or is it in the name of consumerism? Like, who cares? It happened. Not getting caught up in the particulars is Krishna's it's like his expertise, his niche. Right? Somebody might say, that person over there was offering a lamp. And then somebody might say, yeah, but they weren't even doing it for the right reasons. Were they offering a lamp just for the pleasure of the deity, or were they offering a lamp to help their sick grandma? And you know who doesn't care about any of that? Krishna. He's such an expert at not getting caught up in the tiny little details and seeing this overwhelming intention. Doesn't matter. They still offered a lamp to me. They get all the benefit, and so does their grandma. So when it comes to these festivals, I want to get less caught up in the differentiating details and remember all the things that we have in common. Remember all the reasons that there are to celebrate. Just because. Because the world deserves it. Because Jesus deserves it. I mean, of MVPs, he's done a lot. Like, you have basketball games and most valuable player, Jesus has done a lot. Gorgovinda Maharaj used to say, figuratively, that the guru will shed gallons of blood for the sake of the disciple. Later, it transformed into gallons of spiritual blood for the sake of the disciple, just so that they understood that he was speaking figuratively. Jesus was quite literally Who does this? Who but the most empowered spiritual beings are able to willingly take on that kind of contract? They often say that souls come to this place and they make a contract about what they will endure and what they won't endure. And, like who imagines signing off on that contract? You tell us all everything that they're going to have to go through. A horrible torture and crucifixion. Which, like only like neck and neck with Haridas Thakur at this point. So you see this like who would sign off on that? And they said, but it's all going to be worth it. Because you will be the one to let people know how much God loves them. Now we're all kind of like letting that sink in, like, oh, that was beautiful. No, there's still a lot of hardship on the other side. Me, as selfish as I am, would I say it's worth it? I'm not sure if I would sign off on that dotted line. Is my heart that open and compassionate and surrendered? No. And they say, but it'll be worth it because you will let them know that God loves them. It's like, well, am I going to be materially rich? No, absolutely not. That's crazy. Don't do it. Like, well, am I going to be really popular? Kind of. Not really. Well, am I going to have a lot of trusted friends? No. But you'll let them know. Now, would I say, like, weighing all of this and the torture, right? Weighing it, would I be compassionate enough to say, oh, absolutely worth it? Jesus didn't have those considerations. Or if he did, they didn't matter, because that's what he still signed up for. Govinda Maharaj would also say, the Guru will follow you wherever the living entity goes. Wherever that living entity goes, Guru will go and come back again and again and again for as long as it takes to bring that living entity directly to the lotus feet of Shri Krishna. And so then his ending remark would be, so please don't send me to hell. But he was ready. Totally signed off, knowing there's a possibility. But it didn't matter. Completely willing to sign off in order to do whatever it was just to save one person. And save is kind of like an interesting term. I don't mean save in the way that you're lacking anything. Save in the way that you've got all the tools. You just happen to forget how to swim. So helping one soul to reclaim their eternal relationship, helping them to get out of this spiritual amnesia that we all find ourselves in. The prospect of helping just one person was enough for all of these wonderful, amazingly enlightened souls to come and take on whatever, wherever. It's not even like they're dependent on how many followers that they'll have. Because for me, that might be a consideration. It's like I'm having a party. Just one person's going to show up. But if they tell you, like, okay, 125,000 people are going to show up. You're like, I'm there, ready to sing at whatever concert's necessary. These souls value the one over the many. Sure, it's wonderful if there are many, but if just one, my job is complete. Srila Prabhupada said, if just one of my disciples becomes a pure devotee, becomes somehow better than me, everything is set. He signed a contract for strokes, and heart attacks, and 40 days at sea. I have said this before, I'll say it again. I don't want to travel anywhere for 40 days. I don't want to travel for 39 days. Like, I don't even want to travel for 24 hours. You have planes and layovers, you get to someplace, you're like, I've been traveling for 24 hours. Don't anybody ever talk to me. I just want a shower and a nap and then food, and then I'll talk, maybe, possibly. 40 days with seasickness and then dealing with the cold, and I'm sure, because as a young person, when the cold hits in New York and then the temperatures change, you feel it like in your joints. One of my nephews said the other day, like, why do my knees hurt? Like, it's the outside. So now imagine, this man is 70. He has not experienced New York cold. Vrindavan cold is very cute. And what I mean by that is, you get to wear all the cute things, like the deities and sweet little sweaters. Like, if we tried to do that in New York, all of the deities would need big, like, puffy coats and look like little marshmallows. So, but this is the contract that he signed? And that won't be the end of the health issues. And that won't be the end of the external struggles either. It's just the beginning of all of it. But you have the chance of helping even just one person remember their relationship with the Supreme Person. And these people are signing off quicker than I can even imagine. If I can do one thing on Christmas to honor these Vaishnavas, remembering these acharyas, somehow serving these great teachers, but maybe just helping one person, then we've got it. We've absolutely got the idea behind Christmas. And, there are a lot of stories in the Bible that kind of run parallel. King Herod, who heard that a Messiah baby was going to be born, so he goes on a rampage and tries to kill all the babies in the area. Okay? He doesn't sound so different from Kamsa, which kind of lets me know that, like, was this a thing? Like, do you have a manual that comes with certain catastrophes? Like, if there is the advent of an all-powerful baby, you're given special rights to kill all the other babies in an attempt to get to that one baby. Even though it won't work, never works, you can try. Like, do the demons come with a manual? Like, which calamity are we facing? Page 42. So, it's kind of amazing to me. Which also lets me know that you can't make these things up. It's not like all of the countries of the world were in communication with each other thinking, what should we tell the masses? Let's make it match for eternity. What are you going to write about? Well, I'm writing about a baby. They're going to kill all the other babies to get to that baby. Us too. Maybe we should incorporate it into our story. Like, you can't make it up. They didn't have a conference to figure out which legends would be told. So the fact that they match up this way, the fact that they have recurring themes, the world is bigger and smaller than I give it credit for. And these stories of spiritual heroes, even if your mind has some speculative idea that, what if it isn't true? Okay, sure, let's go with that. How many things have we allowed to inspire us that are definitely not true? There are people being inspired today by every single Marvel superhero, and they're absolutely not true. But I feel like I have the archetype of Captain America within me. I'm like, cool. Just let's give Jesus the same, like, let's extend the same courtesy then, at least. How many things do we choose to believe in rather than believing in spirituality? And not without our reasons, I get it. Sometimes the message, the spirituality is great. The people are an exercise in tolerance. See how I said that? So, the spirituality is great. It's the people. Um, and then all of the best things and the worst things about spirituality get used as weapons. Happens everywhere. Every single place, which also just lets me know that, okay, this material world is going to do what it does. And it also lets me know that at the core, the highest people of every single religion in the world, they were seeing the same thing. It's us who have the weird vision. Right? It's us who've got like everything clouded up. But once again, it's not like all of the religions in the world sat down in a conference and they were saying, I think if we wanted to weaponize this, I think we could all go down this one route. Which just lets me know that people are people. Everywhere. And at their core, people are all the same. Exactly the same. No matter how we express it, which is unlimitedly different. But we're all exactly the same. No matter how rich or poor or how much you have or how little you have or whatever you are, everybody is looking to give love, give service, receive service. Like everybody's looking for a few core basic things. And then somehow it gets wonky. And where it gets really wonky is when we start feeling like, but you know what? Wouldn't it be great if I had like all the service and all the love? Wouldn't that be great? Or when you get frustrated in your attempts at trying to give love and it does not seem to be well received, right? From contemplating the objects of the senses, lust develops. See that? So when you're constantly trying to give some love and then all of those attempts are frustrated, next thing you know, we get angry. Because when lust goes unfulfilled, anger develops. Right? Classic Bhagavad Gita in honor of Gita Jayanti coming. So classic Bhagavad Gita. But it's telling us a lot about human psychology. Human beings will want things. It's actually natural for us to want things, to hanker after things. Even the Supreme Person has yearnings and hankerings. Right? It's when they start going unfulfilled. Or we have the fear of them going unfulfilled. Or somewhere we've interpreted it, it's unfulfilled. Then things start going awry. And when that happens, people start doing all kinds of things that they don't even remember doing, things that they would never normally do, things that are outside the scope of their personality. Because then, after anger, you get bewilderment of memory, right? You get thrown over by delusion, and then one falls back into the material pool. Which, the material pool, sometimes we're like, oh, look at those rich people. It's like, not always. The material pool is that mindset. That mindset that everything is missing. That mindset of, you know what? I've been doing this a long time. I've never even been reciprocated with. I've been giving love my whole life and no one has ever reciprocated with me. Somebody once said that I was doing a live storytelling and I was talking about Krishna, Supreme Bestie. He's your best friend. He's going to do everything for you. So remember that. And somebody said, I've been praying to Krishna so long. Why hasn't he ever done anything for me? And I was like, Eesh. Never? You sure? Because you're typing to me right now, which means you're breathing. Unless you're a vampire. And then let me know, please. Because that would be cool to meet a vampire who's been worshiping Krishna for so long. Okay? So, unless you are a vampire, you're breathing. Do we know how it works? We have no idea. If we get a collapsed lung, do we even know what that's even called? In so many, like a pneumothorax. Like, what does that even mean? I don't know what that means. There's a doctor somewhere who kind of knows what it means. They know how to fix it. But these lungs were working the whole time. Anybody know? Anybody even conscious of it? Anybody wake up in the morning and go, gotta turn on my lungs? Unless you have really heavy duty cystic fibrosis or something. Right? We don't even think about it. Unless there's a problem and they stop working, then we notice. But right now, everything is going, it's conspicuous by its absence. We don't have to think. So wait, Krishna's not doing anything? Nothing for us? We don't wake up and go, man, got to turn on my heart this morning. It beats. It happens. So, let us not fall into the trap of thinking that we're so frustrated by our attempts. And sometimes, like I said, with good reason, sometimes you are falling into a space where you feel like everywhere I turn, there's just a lack of love. What in the world can I do? Keep giving it. Keep giving it. In the mood of Jesus, keep giving it. And maybe not to the same people that abused you. Find new people. Because I guarantee you there's somebody just as hungry for love as you are. So that's where the religions get a little wonky. But the message is wonderful. So in all of this, whatever argument you may or may not have, I encourage you to allow this Christmas spirit to be with you. And at least let it be a day where you remember to be compassionate, where you remember to just be kind, where we can remember just to be a friend to somebody. And if we don't want to give out gifts, sometimes a text is enough. Sometimes a text, when you ever get that feeling, you're like, I wonder how so-and-so is. I guess I should text them. I've kind of started following through on that, even if it's just really random and I haven't spoken to that person in a long time. I feel like those messages are important, and a text can save somebody's life and we wouldn't even know it. We might be going on with our lives, and yet and still that text might have saved someone's entire life. They may get back to us a few days later. They may just respond with a little heart on it. Might not be a long paragraph, but maybe, just maybe that text was the difference. So because I wanted this to be about gratitude, and I also kind of wanted it, I wanted to be able to share a little bit of Prema Mala with you all, if I can. And you can't say no because it's my party. So I wanted to share a little bit from, there's a section which is kind of all dedicated to spiritual master. And I kind of named that section Search and Rescue. But it's because they're like our spiritual first responders. They try and go seek us out, Find us. Search and rescue. Like when you have an SOS and you're stranded and you're like sending up flares, hoping that somebody sees it. This is the mercy of Guru, of our teachers. They're going to come find us. And then they're going to come rescue us, pull us up wherever we need help. I was listening to a lecture, and my own teacher, Radhnath Maharaj, was saying, he was giving a quote. He's like, blessed are those who are able to find such a spiritual teacher. But blessed are those who, even after finding that spiritual teacher, find themselves pulled by the hair whenever they're in need. So yeah, sometimes we kind of need these people to save us from ourselves, especially when ourselves get a little bit mopey. We get to those points in life where like, that's it. I'm never going to be able to do anything ever again spiritually. I can't go on anymore. Our teachers mercifully come by like a sweet parent. Sometimes sweeter than some parents. But as a sweet parent, you've got this. It's okay. Come on. Sometimes the language they use might not be as gentle. But we're going with the Montessori spirituality. Everybody's going to be really gentle about it. So I wanted to read some from that section. And even though I wanted to... I wanted to kind of start with the fate of the faithless. And in the meantime, I'll also give little insights about what I felt, where I was, how it kind of related. And then I'll open it up and try and hear from all of you. But I hope this doesn't like shatter the art of the whole thing. Whenever you look at like a poem or a painting and everybody brings their stuff to it and they're like, I think that the artist was talking about so-and-so, and the artist was like, it was cheese. I really hope that this is not like that experience and that we're able to really kind of dive in and hear everybody's heart. So this is Fate of the Faithless. And since it's been a long time, why not? Background music. I've missed story time with all my people. Can everybody hear that faintly? Perfect. So, I was on the shore again, between the two oceans. One was the ocean of the familiar. I had been there before. I knew its waters almost as intimately as I knew my own self. The other was completely unexplored. The two oceans had always been on this dual shore for as long as I had been there myself. They often churned against each other, their foam battling one another, but the two never met, as though part of some unspoken rule. I was in between them, as I said, always in between, as were many others. I had heard some utter our name before, and the name stuck with me. We were called the Faithless. The shore was peppered with many of us, and as usual, we jumped into the ocean of the familiar and swam. It was often a difficult journey, only for the strongest at heart and the most fit. I would see many others try and fail, falling under the water's surface, bobbing for a moment before disappearing into the depths of the darkened sea. It was quite possible that they returned to the arms of the goddess, the one who stood above the waters looking as beautiful as ever. She was always present. Today, she looked like she was clothed in the red of newly sparked fire. Her golden ornaments shimmered against the glow of her face until it became difficult to look directly at her. She held a trident in her hand and watched, grim-faced, as the Faithless jumped into the ocean, one after another. She trained her eyes on me, and I felt her call deep in my bones. I felt compelled to answer her voiceless summons, and my body began to move, almost of its own volition. She called me closer to her side of the shore. I tuned out all else, paying no mind to the chaos around me, churning just like the waves of the ocean. Just when I was about to jump to answer her, I heard a voice. "Stop! You've done this before. All that awaits you there is pain. You will try to control your fate, but you can't. Come this way. Come with me." The voice was deep, and I spun around, looking toward the other ocean. I had never paid it any attention before. I had never seen anything of consequence in its waters. They were almost always calm, their waves lapping gently against the other side of the shore, where I had never ventured. I stayed close to the familiar, always. But now I could see a ship in the distance. It looked as though it was the captain who was calling out to me. His hands were cupped around his mouth to project his voice over the din of the Faithless, jumping and making their attempts to swim through the waters on the other side. "Come with me. Come this way." I could hear the call, but my body wanted to choose. To be done with this indecision, my insides were sick of limbo, and they wanted to know which side they belonged to. There was no boat in the ocean of the familiar. There was only me, swimming for my life. I ground my teeth together, racking my brain, trying to understand which path I should choose. The ship sailed steadily closer, and I could see a large crew of people. Some were rowing, others were hoisting sails, others were assisting, but they all looked toward the captain for guidance. His handsome face and strong features carrying across the miles of sea so that I could see him effortlessly. "You are cheating yourself. You know this. Remember who you are. Remember," the captain commanded. Who was he to command me? I was the master of my own fate. Rebellion alone nearly caused me to jump into the other ocean. There was no one trying to enslave me there. I raised my hands, and lines, cuts, and barely healed bruises were all I could see. How had I not noticed them before? Even as I was looking at them for what seemed like the first time, the throbbing, aching pain that accompanied my injuries registered in my brain, and I winced. You see now, you have tried before. Look at how hard you have tried. You've tried to make your own way. It has not worked. The ocean is too vast, and that's beside the point. The ocean already has its master. You can see her. She is the only ruler there. Others fool themselves into thinking they can rule, but she reigns mistress over that ocean. Have no doubt about that. But there is another master you can serve. Come, let me heal your hands for good. Let me show you what you are meant for. This is not an order. It is a plea. I beg you, come with me. Let me show you. That caught my attention. Not an order? Everyone had always ordered me. But a plea? I had never heard anything like that. My inner tyrant wanted to run toward the captain. I took a step in his direction, and his face brightened with a wide smile. He held out his hand to me. "If you jump, then you'll see. The water is warmer than usual." He nodded his head as if to further convince me. My head cocked in confusion. I'm sure I must have looked something like an intrigued puppy. Warm waters? I had only been used to the freezing, choppy waters of my familiar ocean. As if he was done with my indecision, the captain took a handful of water and flicked it in my direction. Skittish, I scampered away from the dual shore, but still some of the water caught me on the arm. It was warm, so incredibly warm, and with it came what felt like shocks. Memories bounced around against the empty recesses of my mind. Blank spaces began to fill in. Smiling people that I felt as though I knew but had somehow never seen came into view. It felt as though all of them called to me. I trembled in response. "Come, I will take you home." The captain snapped me out of my thoughts, jolting me back to reality. But I had a home, didn't I? Weren't there people waiting for me somewhere? Somehow, now I couldn't remember. The drop of warm water teetered on the edge of my arm, and I held a cupped hand under my forearm to catch it in case it fell. Tiny images swirled and formed in that one droplet, while I peered closer to try and see what was hidden within its depths. Curiosity got the best of me, and before I could talk myself out of it, for the first time in as long as I could remember, I made a new decision. I turned toward the captain and took off at a run. My feet pressed into the sand as I pushed forward as fast as I could. At the end of the shore, I sprung off the tips of my toes, propelling myself forward as I pitched headfirst into the water. Plunged into the deep blue of the new ocean. For a moment, my body forgot how to swim. My limbs splayed, and I felt a moment of panic. Only a moment, before I was mesmerized by the mystery of the ocean's waters. I had never felt water so comfortable in my entire existence. It was so warm that I forgot to panic, and I allowed my body to do what came naturally. Even beneath the surface, a sound filled my ears. I couldn't hear it before on the shore, but now, submerged in its depths, I could hear it. It was a name. Over and over, as though carried on the waves, the name swirled around, over, under, and through me. I breathed in, and where normal water would have made me choke, this name filled me and lifted me up, dragging me to the surface. When I found my head above water again, I almost cried. I didn't want to be out of the safety I felt in those waters ever again. The captain was waiting for me, his ship directly in front of me, and he had his hand held out to me. I sputtered and flailed. "I know, it's wonderful, but come, let me help you. You must take it slow. Healing is a slow process." I glanced at my hands as they easily sliced through the water. The cuts I saw there should have stung in the midst of the ocean, but as I glanced at them, I saw that they were already healing. They were no more than faded scars now, barely memories of what had once been there. I looked to the captain once again and his reassuring smile. He nodded, and this time I longed to trust him. I placed a hand in his strong grip, and with an ease that belied his calm appearance, he hoisted me out of the water and onto the deck. I climbed to my feet and whirled to look across the shore into the other ocean. Countless others were still jumping into the ocean's darkened waters, but the mistress, who hovered above its waters, was staring straight at me. Her eyes bore into mine for a moment, and I felt the first sliver of fear. What would she do now that she had lost one of her own? Would I be punished? Would the captain have to pay for my betrayal? A small, enigmatic smile lifted the corner of her lips, and the grim look in her eyes began to change. She raised her eyes from my own and looked at the captain. Her eyes were still as fierce and determined as ever, but to my amazement, she inclined her head in respect to the captain with a broad, generous smile. Her trident tipped in his direction as though all of her deferred to the captain in a grand salute. It seemed that the captain had won. She vanished, and I turned away from the scene that I was so used to. I turned away from the ocean's choppy waters and the calls of the faithless who tried to swim over the waters by themselves. Come, we must begin. The captain radiated warmth and safety in all directions. Begin? I looked up into his golden face and his kind eyes crinkling at the edges when he grinned. Yes, it's time to take you home. It wasn't until I felt the drops of water hit my own hands that I realized that I was crying. It seemed I had been waiting nearly forever to hear those words. I used to belong to the Faithless, but somehow I had been saved. The captain would now add me as a member of his ship. It would take me home. I craned my head overboard so that I could see the name printed along the side of the huge vessel. It read, Faith. So that was the fate of the Faithless, which, fun fact, kind of began as a Vyas Puja offering for my Guru Maharaj and turned into that. So I thought that with his Vyasa Puja also just recently passing, what better time to kind of share that with all of you and the wider internet audience. What better way than to share this piece, which also makes me a little bit terrified. It's always those moments where, writing it and sending it into the world is one level. And then, it's like, no, be more vulnerable. Read it to them. Like, but it was a happily accepted challenge. So thank you for being with me for it, for bearing with me through it. That is one of my favorite pieces, one of the longer pieces. Several years ago, wrote a book, which just means that now it's time to make another one happen. But that will always be one of my favorites. Always. And I remember reading a purport, and Srila Prabhupada was speaking about those with no faith and speaking about what an unfortunate condition it is. And that kind of sparked an idea. Yeah. Trying to swim in these horrible, choppy waters by yourself. And what is the goal? Now the goal is you keep swimming, because even if you got to that other shore, even if you got to that farthest shore, there's already somebody in charge there. So I've gotten very many questions on who the personality in charge is. Of course, it's Durga Devi. She's in charge here. She's also a very wonderful lady with a trident. There are some people who will adopt the words of previous acharyas and then use that to kind of blame everything on Maya. I now try to look at it with a healthy respect. So when they say Maya is very strong, yes, she is. And I have such a great respect. And then I try to do the thing that younger siblings do, being an expert on being a younger sibling. You try and sweet talk them. Like I completely understand that you're in charge here. Can we just be friends so that somehow? But I don't want to just take the words of previous acharyas and really just kind of regurgitate them without actually thinking about what I'm saying. And I say this because I think I was scrolling through something on social media and somebody was talking about Maya quite disparagingly. Sometimes we can feel like, but isn't that the point? Look at Jeev Jago. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is quoting Mahaprabhu saying, you've been sleeping in the lap of the witch Maya. They had the spiritual clout and the spiritual currency to say that. I don't know if I have the spiritual currency to call that wonderful woman anything other than that wonderful woman. Like, I don't know if I have that. And I think even more than that, when we look at the words of the previous acharyas, when we look at a quote like that, what do we do with it? Do we think that they actually thought that Durga Devi is a witch? No, I don't think that at all. What I do think is they liken our activities to being taken over and possessed by such an entity. Jiva Goswami writes a very elaborate commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. And in that commentary, he says, Maya only really needs to do two things. Right? So she creates this material world plane because her own master says, my other best friends need some place where they can try and be God. Can you help? So once again, right, now we see the compassion of these great entities, these great personalities. Because if somebody would have told me, you're pretty much going to be mislabeled, misinterpreted, mishandled, misunderstood, and blamed for the rest of eternity. Loads of like God-fearing people are not going to like you. They're going to blame all of their shortcomings on you. But also, you have the power to judge if they are sincere enough to get closer to your person. Immediately, she signs off on it. And if she has any doubts about it, and what I love is she does have doubts about it, she doesn't even express them then. She serves first and like asks questions later. So like what doubts could she possibly have about it? She often, more than once, she cries to the Supreme Person. You've separated us eternally. I am your very own. I am yours. And now you've separated us eternally? They say where there is Krishna, there is no Maya. And where there is Maya, it's hard for Krishna to control himself. So now you've put us at odds from each other. What am I supposed to do with that? I can deal with anything, but this? I'll take on whatever they want to heap on me, but being separated from you? How is that fair? Famously, she cries in this way to Mahaprabhu. She says, my Lord, you're coming to inundate the world. Number one, this is undermining my job that you gave me. Because if everybody is love of color, what's the purpose of this place that you made me create? Also, number two, you're further separating us. As if it wasn't enough for me to be mistress of this place. Now you're inundating the world, and they say that wherever Mahaprabhu is, there can be absolutely no trace of Maya. How? You've eradicated a whole person? Why would you do that? How can I maintain my life? Mahaprabhu reminds her, you are none different than my very own energy. What are you saying? Separated. We are always of the same mind. If anyone knows how to facilitate my pastimes, if anyone knows how best to facilitate my mood, it's you. Even down to helping me forget my supremacy so that I can further experience my mood. This is you, your gift. So never think that we are separated. Ever. But if you need something more concrete, because she does, right? She's still kind of looking at him like, I hear what you're saying, theoretically, but this is fine. You can become the guardian of my pastime places. These specific miraculous ones. You become my guardian. And for those who don't have love for me in their hearts, you cast your veil of illusion for which you are so well known. But for those who have even a tinge of love for me, You personally usher them closer to me. And so, our wise Vaishnavacharyas say that this is the reason that where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lives is called Mayapur, the city of Maya. One might think, why? Why would we have the Supreme Personality of Godhead living in a place called the city of complete illusion? Benedictions. And it is said that there specifically, if you are not Krishna conscious, you are really not Krishna conscious. She's going to make sure that she protects the pastime places of her Supreme Person. But if you are, she personally will usher you closer. So, Jiva Goswami says that Maya really only does two things. She creates this place. And then all she has to do is create one thought. I. That's it. She creates this world and gives you the gift of an ego, and she steps back. That is it. And then everything runs like a well-oiled machine. Jivas come here, they try to get what they want, they can't get what they want, they go and oppress each other. In oppressing each other, they go and commit horrible, heinous deeds. They commit actions which need reactions. They entangle themselves in all kinds of different things, and then the world goes on. Not just this world, any of them. Upper, middle, lower, doesn't matter. That's it. So, her job in essence is kind of simple because we are what we are. But also, we should have a healthy respect for how strong her grip is. And, with that healthy respect comes like, can we just talk about how awesome she is? Her grip is so strong. Her influence is so strong. And all she had to do was two things. Not to downplay anything, but this is the amazing multitasking of women. Just saying. Two things. But she does them so well that for the rest of time, it was like, oh, no, watch out for her. Also, this is, interestingly enough, what happens to this group of female people is also then they get blamed for everything. For the end of time. But she does it willingly. So willingly. With a compassionate nature, though, that says, okay, you've given me a job, I get it, but really what she wants is someone just to be sincere enough that they remember their relationship with Krishna. I feel like her job thus far, after doing those two things, is made simple because all she has to do is ask, are you sure? Are you sure? So all of these things that happen in our lives, I started to feel a little bit better about them. Like when you think that you've learned a lesson in your spiritual growth and then it comes back around, instead of thinking, are you really testing me again and insulting my whole, because that's what happens with me. I get a little bit like, I throw tantrums. I'm like, really? You're going to insult me? I've done so much healing and growth. And in throwing the tantrum, I kind of show that I haven't done all the healing and growth. But now I'm coming to a point where I want to look at it as though she's asking, are you sure? Like, yes, you have. I'm not undermining the growth. I'm just asking, you sure this isn't what you want? It could be okay. So when those obstacles come, I've been starting to ask myself and really repeat to myself, she's just asking, are you sure? Nobody's challenging you. It's fine. Keep breathing. Keep chanting. She's just asking, are you sure? Our job is to say, I'm sure. This relationship that I see off in the distance is worth it. I'm sure. There's so much packed into Fate of the Faithless. The fear that, okay, if I give up everything that is familiar to me for this unknown ocean, but really, it's switched, right? Bhagavad Gita says there's a banyan tree, it's upside down, right? It's actually a little bit confusing, the metaphor, but it helps if you start like writing down your own realizations. Eventually you start to see that Bhagavad Gita has been right all along. So there's a banyan tree that's flipped. The roots go upward and the branches grow downward. And what is happening? Turns out you're looking at a reflection. Like, that's the whole point of that. It turns out you're actually looking at the reflection, thinking this is what's familiar. So I'm looking at these two oceans thinking that is what's familiar, when really that unknown place, that place of spirituality, was my identity long and before any of this. Banyan tree. I once asked myself why in the world they would use a banyan tree for that metaphor. Like, I was like, what's the deal with banyan trees that you'd use that metaphor? So then I looked it up. And when you see pictures of banyan trees, what happens is the branches really do start to grow down so much that they connect with the roots, and then the roots, they do this synergistic thing. And so they say that banyan trees have upgrowing roots. They actually have. And the whole thing looks very like, I see why they have a whole forest of them. Bandira trees or banyan trees. So when you hear about Bandiravan and how they use it as a jungle gym and all of that, I could, after looking at pictures, and I urge you all, Google it. Like, Google banyan trees with the roots and the upward, downward branches. It's really cool. I could see how they would use it as a jungle gym. Also, it was, some of it looked very cave-like and terrifying. Like, it looks like some strange entity that should move at any moment in like some episode of Lord of the Rings. Like, it should talk to me or so. I don't know. It was very interesting. I was like, that's exciting and also terrifying. I see why boys played there. Like, yeah, I see why Krishna and his friends would play there. Makes complete sense. Terrifying, exciting, wonderful place. So yeah, we're looking at this reflection going, yeah, that's familiar. And there's somebody going, that's a reflection. Look, just look up. The real thing is so much more breathtaking. Looking at the sun glinting off of water is gorgeous, but like, beholding the actual sun, though, this is what I've been sitting there doing, thinking, this is my familiar ocean, and that is not. This person is my enemy, and this person is my friend. And then there's a teacher who comes along and says, stop. How long are you going to do this? You're not even enjoying it. You're looking for enjoyment, but have you found it? So maybe it's not there. Let me help you look somewhere else. And usually for the first 4, 5, 6 millenniums, we completely ignore that call. It doesn't exist. Just so that we don't feel bad about our situation or think that we are the only ones going through this. Indra did a great many things. And he willingly takes on the role of active teacher in so many, and by active, I mean he's going to reap the harsh benefits, the reactions of everything. You know, he's going to teach by full example. So Indra did a great many things, and essentially he is cursed to become a pig, a hog. So this is a story I've been hearing ever since I was 9 or 10. It's a story that Gorgovinda Maharaj would tell often, and that's who I first heard it from. And I remember after having heard it, one, never forgetting it because it's kind of a funny story. And I remember him telling it. So in the mood of gratitude for our teachers, this is another one of those that without these wonderful stories, where would we be? And without these people who willingly take on whatever to bring them to us, where would we be? So Indra becomes a hog. And Gorgovinda Maharaj would say, doing all kinds of what we would consider nasty and abominable things, right? Pigs will mate with anybody. Doesn't really matter what member of their family they are. Pigs will mate with anybody. So Indra was involved, and in this case, he totally dove into the role of pig. It wasn't like, Jad Bharat, you get Jad Bharat in the Srimad Bhagavatam and he becomes a deer, but he can remember that he was Jad Bharat. And so then he lives his little peaceful deer life in full tapasya, deer tapasya. I don't know what deer tapasya is, but he did that, This was not that. Indra went complete pig. Not even thinking that I was the king of the heavens. I'm king pig right now. And that's all that matters. So he's, going after all kinds of things, and pigs eat anything. Pigs are famously known for eating fecal matter. Our favorite ISKCON word. Pigs are known for eating stool. Such an ISKCON word. And I remember growing up and Krishna consciousness makes you a really weird kid. So like you grow up calling them these things. You're like, stool. I'm like, what 6-year-old is referring it to it like but so yeah, he was eating all kinds of things. Finally, they say that so many people, and they said even Lord Brahma comes and he tells him, he's like, hey, Indra, what are you doing? Like, remember who you are. Like, you had a life outside of this. There's a whole heavenly kingdom and it needs a ruler. And so you need to come back. Right? Enticing him. Leave the pig body. Come to the heavenly planets with nectar of immortality, lots of enjoyment, endless parties, lots of dancing people. Okay? And Indra's reply is kind of like, meh, I'm good here. What are you saying? How could you be okay there? Come back. Take up your position. Rule your kingdom. And Gorgovinda Maharaj says that Indra looks and he says, is there stool up there? That's my favorite food. And if I can't get my favorite food, it's kind of a no-go for me. This is us. We are looking, having access to the best place in the entire creation. And we're looking at it going, but is it going to have my favorite food? And it's like, you have no idea how bad that food is compared to the food in the spiritual world. I'm like, yeah, but does it have my favorite this one food? Are there bagel bites there? Is it going to work? Bagel bites not my favorite food, by the way, but it is Nandi's favorite food. So thought I'd throw that out there. My favorite food is my mom's lasagna, which I am sure would absolutely be in the spiritual world. I'm so sure of it. That's a religious experience in and of itself. I'm so sure of it. So, that's all of us. And they're saying, there's a place where Srimati Radhika doesn't even cook the same thing twice. For all of eternity, she cooks a different thing every day. We're like, yeah, but my personal lasagna, is it there? And they're like, expand your mind, around the lasagna, okay? Expand your mind past whatever we think is good here. Compared to that, this tastes like nothing. And we refuse. Maybe one day. One day. One day we don't refuse. One day we get the message. And that's where it starts. One day we get the message, we get the idea, we get the shadow, we see a little bit. And that's enough to make us never, ever forget it. There have been people who have tried to forget Krishna. They've given up on societies, but somehow God never lets them go. He keeps creeping up. He keeps following them. It's transcendental spiritual stalking, really. My sister has a theory, and I agree with her on this. Stalking is only stalking if you don't like it. If you like it, then it's like sweet and courting. Oh, that's romantic. Stalking becomes stalking when you don't like it. So it's transcendental stalking because we really give God mixed signals. Sometimes we're all for it. Find me, save me. And other times we pretend as though we've never even asked for the finding and the saving. Why are you here ruining my plans to enjoy myself? And our poor Supreme Personality is like, you asked me yesterday. Once again, cautionary tale from Indra. Indra has a problem. His mother's wonderful mystical golden earrings are missing. He goes to Krishna to ask for help. My mother's earrings are missing. Technically, your mother also, since you are the origin of Vamana. And we have the same mother. Her earrings are missing. Can you help us get them back? Where are they? They're with a demon called Narakasura or Bhaumasura in his capital. Krishna goes, has to go through a lot to defeat that demon, kills many demons in one go. He does so much. He brings his wife. They kill the demon. They get the earrings back. They bring the earrings back to Indra's mother, Aditi. And Krishna says, now that I've done all of this for you, my wife wants a parijata tree. Could we have just one? And Indra, being this actionary teacher that he is for us, says, absolutely not. It was my tree. I can't give you that tree. Now, this is the person that you just asked for help. You were just begging him for help, and he helped you and succeeded. And then he asks for something in return, and we go, absolutely not. What would cause you to think that you can take my things? And so Krishna takes the parijata tree, and then Indra challenges him to battle. And I was always kind of saying, the very person who just killed the demon that you could not defeat, you want to battle that person? Oh, okay. Sure. No problem. This is us in our daily lives, though. Indra has taken on this role, showing us exactly who we are day in and day out, sometimes several times a day. In the morning, it's Krishna save me. And by the afternoon, it's like, why are you interfering in all of my plans like this? Like, why can't we just let things go according to the way I think they should go? Also, why are you taking my money? How did you become so selfish? Like, the person we just asked for help, can you please help me with abundance? And then he gives the abundance. Can I have just 10% of the abundance? Why would you ask me for that? What kind of cruel person are you? And then we go tell other people, don't worship that God. He's probably going to take away the money that you just asked him for. Worship that other God. He'll just give and give and give. No problem. So this is us. This is us looking at the reflections, looking at all the things that we think we have, thinking that there can't be anything better than this. Well, didn't we think that when we were babies, but somehow it gets better? Didn't we think that when we were toddlers, but somehow it gets better? Didn't we think that when we were 10 and $73 was a lot of money? But then we realized it could get even more abundant? So yeah, our spiritual teachers have come, and they are trying hard, so hard, to try and get us to focus on the things that matter. And we are really all still like, but is there stool over there? Because that guy said there was, but then that guy said there wasn't. And now I'm confused. And somebody's got to convince me. Otherwise, like, why should I even think about listening to you if you're not able to convince me? I'm sorry. Who gave us all this authority? Like, all of your spirituality is hinging on whether or not you can convince me. I'm sorry, who are you? Who are you? We are jivas with egos given by the most wonderful engineer that has ever engineered. So when we think about Indra, and we often do with like slight laughter, not with like at. Anybody ever caught themselves kind of like, oh, Indra? I now challenge us to extend that same reaction to ourselves. It's like, you. Here you go again. We've got to remember that this is not just his story. And he's not doing it for no reason. This is our story. He's just acting it out. But we can get back home. All we have to do is get on the boat. We can get back home. And everything that we think that will ever be missing, it will be achievable and more if we just get on the boat. I read a quote by a saint, and I'll try and post it later. And the end of the quote, it was like a prayer. And it says, "Oh my Lord, anything that you have given in hunger can only end in feast." Okay, what does that even mean, right? Anything that we think the Lord has given us that seems to be lacking, it's just not done. Any place that we think that there might be a lack, once connected with our supreme best friend, can only end in feast. Anything good we think we have here is actually lacking. We don't even know how great it could be. But there are people constantly trying to tell us. All we have to do is listen to at least one of them. You want to listen to more and spread it around? Sure. But the main point of it is, let's listen. Let's allow these wonderful teachers to light up our lives. They've been trying to rehabilitate and decorate us for so long. And we've been resisting. But we don't have to. There's another way. So thank you. Yeah, I kind of want to open it up for comments, questions, blessings you would like to bestow upon me this day. Yeah, so over on YouTube, the YouTubers were asking, they were like, can we ask questions? You can, if you join the Patreon. Gotta be in the Zoom room. So yeah, let me have it. I know at least Shardia. Shardia says in the chat, I have many questions. Let's see, do you need my permission? I've now asked you to unmute.
Hare Krishna, Ajita Gopi. Thank you so much. I'm trying to say, I think my favorite part was the poetry with the music, but everything was wonderful. So I have questions about, because you kind of went through many different things. So my first question is about Jesus, and I really appreciated how you said you think about Christmas as a um like as a celebration for a guru, because I mean I grew up as Christian and I always have appreciated Christianity, but I've never thought about it that way. So I
Yeah, they have
really,
the biggest death puja.
yes, they do. So I really like seeing it that way. And you were mentioning how Prabhupada said Jesus was a Shakti Avesh avatar. And you were also saying that, and I never thought about that, before Jesus came, he kind of knew what he was going to go through, and he still like agreed because he was just for the sake of his mission, he was willing to go through so much suffering. And yeah, that I really appreciate that point, because I just never like thought about that. But now my question is, we see that because you mentioned, like, for instance, another Shaktivesh avatar is Parashuram. So we see that with Shaktivesh avatars, they usually have a very specific mission. So do you have any insight, or do you know if Prabhupada said anything about what was Jesus's specific mission? Like what? Yeah, I mean, obviously we can say he came to establish Christianity, but that seems like a bit like just historical. So do you have any
Jesus,
insight on what was his purpose?
I mean, the wonderful thing about this is Jesus does not leave anybody in like confusion. He's not like, can you guess what my mission is? His mission was spreading love of God. The entirety, the whole thing. He was upending existing churches and temples if they weren't already trying to abide authentically in sincerity in a spirit of loving God and in a spirit of cooperation with one another. Um, Srila Prabhupada, he always says, true religion is to know who is God and how to love him. And so many times he would say, Jesus is also preaching this. So I think his mission is incredibly clear. Um, it's about love of God, which is so close to Mahaprabhu's mission. Like so close. Which just lets us know that we don't have like a monopoly on God or ways to reach God. Right? Even if we think that this method, this medication for my spiritual amnesia might work best for me. But that person might have a different medication, a different dosage, a whole different thing that might work better for their spiritual amnesia. So it just goes to show that the message is the same. Living entities are all dealing with the same things, even up to Lord Brahma. But yeah, Jesus's mission was quite clear, so clear, and everything that he did, everything that he said, everything that he established, everything that he went through was to further that mission. Otherwise, who can look up at their torturers and say, "Oh, my dear Lord, just forgive them, it's okay." Which is why I compare the beating of Haridas Thakur also to this wonderful example, because the both of them prayed for their torturers, which is completely unfathomable for me. I'm barely getting to the point where I do not wish for their utter destruction. Like, that's step one for me. If I can just get to the point where I pray for them not to be destroyed, I'm making progress. But I am not yet to the point where I pray for them. It's okay, my Lord, let them go. It's fine. You have no trouble with this person. Because what these supreme personalities know, that this is something that makes God really, really annoyed. Like, you really want to get under God's skin, mess with his people. He hates it. So now we see these people saying, but I'm willing to take on their sins, sins of others, sins of future generations that I don't even know. I'm willing to take on any and all just so that one person might understand that there is a love of God. And it's more incredible than any of us could have ever realized. Yeah, his mission for me is kind of amazing. I put this analogy forth a few weeks ago. It's like people saying, guys, there's fruit that you've never heard of before. And I likened it to a mango. Only because I was reading something recently and I didn't, because you don't know what you don't know. So when you think you know something, it's everybody has known it. I realized there was a time when England had no idea what a mango was. For me, I'm like, I love mangoes. One of my favorite fruits. Like, wow, really? You guys had to struggle without mangoes? Seems hellish. So they had a picture. They had to ask somebody to bring one, right? They could go figure it out. So now I kind of liken this experience to this. Now, say you might have seen a picture. What is that? It's a mango. Then somebody brings one or the peel of one. What is that? This is the peel of a mango. You get a little fragrance. You get some. But when somebody has tasted that fruit, they're like, hey, not only is this a ripe mango that I'm giving you, but there's an entire tree of mangoes. I just want you to understand how sweet this fruit is. This is what true spirituality is like for me. Right? You kind of hear of this concept. There's a all-seeing being. You get a picture of a fruit. What is that even? Oh, it's this. But you get none of what comes with the taste and the feel and the smell of and then you get just the peel of it. This is interesting. Like you just the peel. And so you can kind of smell it, but it's not like tasting it. And when it's at its like best for you. And so for some people, ripe mango is best. And for some people, unripe mango with chili is best, like all the things, right? So you get this mango that it's its best flavor for you specifically. This is my Krishna. This is my Krishna. He's going to give the best spirituality for you specifically. Then you get our acharyas, our teachers, our gurus. You get Jesus. You get all the, and you know, I keep having to say it separately, but really, Jesus was a guru. So you get all of these people who say, I've tasted the fruit. You guys have got to try this fruit. And we're like, yeah, really? Is that the same as that like other tree? Like I heard there was another tree and then we get caught up on the tree and they're like, I don't care about the tree. Look at the fruit. And we're like, yeah, but which fruit is better? They're like, it doesn't matter. But there's fruit is what I'm telling you. You haven't had any of them. And we're just telling you that you try the fruit. Any of them. Because you're deficient. And we're still hung up on everything else. But is there a tree? Which fruit is the best? I think mangoes are the best. Well, that person said apples are the best. And because they said that apples are the best, I can't trust them ever on anything. It's like, well, have you had apples or mangoes? No. But they said it was different, so I can't trust them. So, you know, all of these things, which, fun fact, there's so many accords and accounts that say Jesus spent a lot of time in Jagannath Puri. Srila Prabhupada has also said that he spent time in Jagannath Puri, and he gives accounts from other Vaishnavacharyas who speak about the fact that Jesus has spent time in Jagannath Puri and got darshan of Lord Jagannath directly. So Srila Prabhupada writes in that regard, he's like, so, you know, we have to understand how great a personality Jesus is, because without a connection to the pujaris, without a connection to Sri Krishna, there's no chance. You know how hard it is to get that direct darshan of Lord Jagannath in Puri? It's like nearly impossible for many, many Indians. But now we have Jesus, seemingly from someplace else, seemingly from a different culture, seemingly on the outside, everything is different. In Jagannath Puri, in the temple, having direct darshan of Lord Jagannath. So Srila Prabhupada makes sure to let us know how important a personality he was. I hope that really longly answered your question.
Hare Krishna, yes, it did. The other day I read a very inspiring letter from Prabhupada where he wrote, I can't remember to whom, but he wrote to one of his disciples in New York. And then he said, Jagannath is coming for Rath Yatra because Jesus was a great devotee of Jagannath. So that's why he's coming. So one thought that I had is it might be because you were saying that, you know, Jesus's mission was to spread love of Godhead, and his message is like very clear, you know, like love God, serve God. Maybe not in so much detail as the Vaishnava philosophy, but the essence. So I'm wondering if we could see that Jesus, at least in the Western world, was kind of also kind of preparing, you know, the field so that people might be more receptive, because people would already have the understanding of God as a person, and you know, we as his servants.
Kind of, but also what I really love is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has kind of made the comparisons between the teachings of Jesus and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and how up until you get to conjugal love, he's actually preached the same thing. There is no difference. And so, you know, we kind of fall into the same trap with Jesus as the people who say, Prabhupada didn't give us everything. Externally, it would seem as though Prabhupada only had time enough to give the bare minimum. And I've heard people say this to me. He just gave the bare minimum, the basics. But if you want more, you gotta. And we kind of fall into that trap if we think about Jesus that way. He just gave bare basics. We shouldn't confuse simple language with not having the potency of all the spirituality in it. Right? That depends on the listener. That depends on the person who's getting the message. I heard somebody say, and they were a great, like, motivational speaker. They've written books and all kinds of things, and they were saying, a great teacher or a great speaker depends on the eagerness of the listeners. And they said it like profound thought. And everybody was like, yes, profound thought. And I thought, wow, they said the exact same thing in Srimad Bhagavatam. All of the sages are saying, please speak on, speak on. Parikshit Maharaj is saying, speak on, speak on. Shukadev Goswami is saying, I can only do this because you're so eager to hear. The impact that I'm making here is able to be made because you are accepting this with this open, receiving heart. So if we think that the language is simple, if we think that the message is lacking something, something's been lost in translation. It's our ears, not their mouths. Does that make sense? Like, so to be honest, I think he did. If we think, you know, maybe, you know, like not loving God, maybe not God as a person, but serve God, our Father. How many times did Jesus say that? If we glancing over it, that's our fault. How many times I am the direct son of the Most High? Like, how many times does the man have to say it before we're like, oh, that's what you meant. I get it now. He said it. We're overlooking it. So we can revel. We can find comfort in simple language because sometimes it makes my brain hurt to think of the advanced language. But also we have to remember to look at what exactly he's saying. So I don't think his message was rudimentary. I think the people were, as people always are. right? We can't say people then were any more or less simplified. It's just people. Because in every era, you'll get the advanced ones and you'll get the ones that need a little bit more coaxing. So I actually don't think his message was so watered down. I think it depends on the listener. And every listener will get something different. Because there were some people who were able to really imbibe Jesus's message to such a high level. And then there were some people who still didn't get it, just like today. There are going to be some people who are able to imbibe Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission and to imbibe what Srila Prabhupada has said and find the jewels hidden between the lines of Srimad Bhagavatam in Srila Prabhupada's realizations and ecstasies. Gaur Govinda Maharaj would say his lectures were like 3 hours long minimum, right? And he would say all kinds of things, very strong things. He would tell these stories, give these lessons. And he would say, I'm doing all of this so that you realize everything is in Srila Prabhupada's books. And I'm doing this so that you realize Srila Prabhupada has left out nothing. We just have to tune to the right frequency to get the same signal. So I think it was the same with Jesus. And if he did not give that conjugal loving relationship, I know absolutely there must have been a reason. Because you can't tell me he's a great devotee of Lord Jagannath and doesn't know about conjugal love. Lord Jagannath is the absolute symbol of Mahabhav. He only looks that way because he's super in love. Gaur Govinda Maharaj tells the story. Radharani is at the end of her life. There are many people who argue about the details of this story. So you say Radharani is at the end of her life. How could that be? She couldn't be at the end of her life. She never ages. It's fine. And then there are some people who are like, well, the Vaishnav said it. I mean, it has to be. I urge us to go with this story. Not get caught up on the was she or was it. She said she was at the end of her life. So on the edge of all she could take, she says, that's it. That's it for me. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm leaving, dying, done. And everyone in Vrindavan is in an uproar. Everyone comes forward to see her. Everyone comes forward to speak with her. Even Jatila, her mother-in-law, she apologizes wholeheartedly. Even Abhimanyu, her husband, who comes and says, I have only ever glimpsed your shadow. I know who you have always belonged to. Everybody comes, makes their amends. Says, we've known all along. We understand. And finally, word gets to Krishna. Radharani's leaving. What does Krishna do? He jumps up, stops whatever he's doing. I'm going. But how can they maintain their lives? I've said I was going to come so many times and I didn't. If I say I'm going, they won't even believe me. Rohini steps forward. Maybe. Send someone else. Balaram says, I would go, but I did that before. And I told them you were coming. And then you didn't show up. So now they're not going to believe me either. Subhadra Devi steps forward and says, let me go. I've never been there before. But also I'm a woman. They'll understand my heart and they'll trust me more. Subhadra Devi, who is none other than the Yogamaya potency. Remember that Durga Devi? Remember? See? She's our friend. So Subhadra Devi says, I'll go. They'll listen to me. Krishna says, this is a wonderful idea. But Subhadra Devi, as a grown goddess, still can't travel alone. Neither can I. And so Balaram says, I'll go with you. I can't let you travel alone. It's ridiculous. I'll go with you. And so usually in a Rath Yatra celebration, it is said that Balaram is supposed to go first. So in the procession of carts, Balaram should go first. And then Subhadra Devi, because she's carrying the message that, hey, wait, stop, everyone. Krishna's coming. I promise this time. So she arrives in Braj and carries the message. Wait, stop! I promise this time Krishna's coming. Everyone wants to believe her, but Radharani refuses. I refuse. How many times have I heard this message? And it seems as though she almost stops all external activity. And then Krishna arrives. How does she know? The same way she knew when she was first born. When Radharani was first born, she would not open her eyes. She wouldn't respond. They thought that the child was deaf and blind and couldn't speak and a whole list of other things, and everybody was very afraid. Krishna arrives. And it's said that she can smell his bodily fragrance. And that is the only reason she decided to engage with the external world. Now, once again, she stopped all of her external activities. She looks as though everything is finished. She smells the aroma of Krishna's bodily fragrance. She decides, okay, maybe it's worth 5 more minutes. She comes back to external consciousness. And when Krishna sees Radharani's form, in excitement, in absolute love, his arms shrink in, his eyes dilate, and a broad smile graces his face. No one has seen a form like this, but he promises, I'll come again. This form, the one that I've exhibited after seeing you, in love of separation, in the greatest display of emotion, that form will be known all over the universe. So we can't tell me that Jesus didn't know anything about Mahabhav if he was a great devotee of Lord Jagannath. There's no way he couldn't have known about this conjugal relationship. But perhaps in their areas of the world, you can't tell everything to everybody. Right? You start understanding from people's reactions and how they view you, and you can't tell everybody everything. So yeah, I don't think that his message was missing anything. Somebody is saying, a YouTuber, one of the YouTube people, they were saying that they have zero attraction for Jesus after knowing Indian history and the Goan Inquisition. Now, my question was this. Is this Jesus or people? Because Jesus was kind of minding his business. Is it Jesus or people? And we should be asking ourselves that every moment in our spirituality. Is it this person or is it people? Is it Krishna or is it people? Is it Srila Prabhupada or is it people? And sometimes, we get the rude awakening that the people that we revere are people. But we first have to ask ourselves, in a real loving mood, is it Jesus or is it people? Is it Krishna or is it people? Usually the answer is it's people. 9 times out of 10, the answer is it's people. That one chance that it's actually Krishna or Jesus, then there's a reason, which usually involves people. So there are some people and they say, there's so much horribleness that happens in the Bible. Like so many people are getting punished for so many things. As if our Vaishnav literature has no punishments for anybody. As if we don't have a 5th canto dedicated to 26 hellish planets where you have all kinds of hellish reactions for things that you may or may not have any control over. I've read some things. There's a Garuda Purana, which describes that there are hellish reactions for just the way someone's body is made. Like if the arch in your foot curves too much to the right, then there's a hellish planet for that. And I'm like, what? Wait a second. Hold on now. Hold on. I didn't have control. What is this? I didn't have control over that. But what they're saying is that arch in the foot leads to some personality trait that they've discovered that then leads to people who are sort of like something. I don't know. I just find myself really glad that there are spiritual days like Ekadashi. So, when we think about it, we have to really look at it and go, oh yeah, like there's nothing that ever happened in the history of Vedic Sanatan Dharma that didn't make us go, yeah, yeah, okay. Nothing? How about this, right? Indra and all the demigods are stopped one day by Narada Muni. And he says, what are you doing? And Indra says, well, there's a demon by the name of Hiranyakashipu. He's been causing a lot of issues with all of us and the entire universe. So he was gone on penance. We thought the best thing to do would be to ransack and pillage his entire kingdom. Narada Muni is saying, right, because that's going to fix the problem. But what are you doing now? He's like, oh, well, we have his pregnant wife. We kidnapped her. We're holding her hostage. Narada Muni says, so you kidnapped a woman and you held her hostage because this is the path of the good guys? They were dealing with a universal tyrant who was abusing people and often kidnapping unsuspecting women. So in order to fix the problem, they kidnapped an unsuspecting woman. How does this? We're going to continue. So, and there says, but the key is she's pregnant. Harden was like, I don't see how this makes this any better. This is not a good situation. Like, it's not better now. It's like, no, we're only keeping hostage a pregnant lady. Like, come on. He's like, this does not make this better. This is not okay. And Indra says, well, I think that we can't allow the child of Hiranyakashipu out into the world. If his father is a demon, the kid must be even a bigger demon. He's like, you weren't going to kill the pregnant lady, were you? She's like, of course not. I'm not going to kill the pregnant lady. That would be sinful. We're just going to wait for the baby to be born and then kill the baby. Oh! Because that's not any less sinful. It's fine. How do we make that okay? The good news is we can't really make it okay. Narada Muni doesn't make it okay either. He's like, stop. What are you? Okay. Listen, even if you wanted to kill him, you couldn't. You might think that child is just the son of a demon, but he's actually the greatest Vaishnav to have ever lived. Personally protected by Lord Vishnu. So be careful. So yeah, in every single tradition, if we actually really look at it, there are going to be some questionable things that happen. Why? Because the material world is a material world. And once people start interacting with the material world, then material worldy things begin happening. You get people who want to rule over the entire thing. Because honestly, don't we all? Isn't that what we're all trying to do, either minutely or on a huge scale, is rule over this entire thing? So we have to remember what our actual position is. We're not much better. Good thing is we're not much worse. But we're not much better. So we have to remember that compassion is so key. And don't throw everything out all at once. Is it Jesus you're mad at? Or is it people? Is it Krishna we're angry with and frustrated with? And usually the anger and the frustration is because we've been hurt. Along the line, some person has said something, done something that has hurt us. And because we may not feel as though we can take it out on that specific person, we take it out on the supreme person. God, why did you let this happen? It's like, it's a material world. I didn't set it up. You guys wanted this place. It's yours. So is it Jesus or is it people? Is it Krishna or is it people? And sometimes we have to get past our own hurt. We have to allow ourselves to heal past our own hurt so that we can see that it's not Krishna. It's people. And in this place, people are not at their best. Confirmation. It's good New York confirmation. No, but really, I actually hope everything is okay. Because they sounded like they had somewhere to go. They're still going. Yeah, so we have to remind ourselves that in this place, people are not at their best. People are not behaving at their best capacity and potential. This place is going to make everybody the worst versions of themselves somehow. And then we live under that curse thinking this is all there is. We can aspire higher. And we can also extend the same understanding and compassion to our spiritual teachers that we would wish they would extend toward us. Because I know I don't get everything right. But one of the biggest things in my life is if something goes wrong, I always feel like I just would want my guru to understand. I just would want him to understand me. I just would want him to understand that somehow I think I had a reason. Whether it was a good reason or not, I had one. And I was trying. So I try to extend that same kind of understanding to these great Vaishnavas and these great souls. Funny thing is, whenever I've done that as an exercise and tried to give that understanding, so much more understanding has come back in return. Either that or I find out the actual internal reason why they've done whatever they've done, and that usually vibes better with my soul. So yeah, all in all, I want to stop underestimating our spiritual teachers. I want to stop discrediting our spiritual teachers the way maybe me or all of us have been discredited at some time or other. I want to stop thinking, oh, they don't have it the way so many people may have thought about us. It helps me try and figure out that whole like humble as a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. I am. My Guru Maharaj, that's one of his favorite verses. And rightfully so. Me, not so much. I have kind of a fiery personality, and I was kind of like, what about the Shikshastakam verse where they're like, there's an eye for an eye. Oh my Lord, please destroy my enemies. They're like, yeah, wrong, Kavacha. You need something else. So I've been trying to remind myself that extending that understanding and that compassion and just trying to remember that people are people with hearts and minds and senses that they're dealing with helps me a little bit on the path to trying to become humble or tolerant. Qualities that would make Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so happy and pleased that he would want to associate more with me. Because that's what my chanting is for. My chanting, my prayers, all of it, I'm constantly just kind of asking God, could you be my friend? What would it take to be your friend? Can we just hang out? And so these are the things that make Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu want to hang out with us. Run to find us, save us, decorate us, make sure we're ready to meet our supreme beloveds. They'd say the gopis would decorate each other. And unless Krishna mischievously played his flute so that they could not properly decorate each other, they usually didn't let anybody go to see Krishna looking like, why do you look sad and morose in your life? They're like, we're gonna go see Krishna. And we've been waiting for this all day. Like ever since he left in the morning, we've been looking out the moon towers and watching him go through different forests and come back. And like, we've been looking for the whole thing. Why? Don't look depressed when we go see him. Let's go with joyful hearts and joyful energies. So, yeah, I want to stop underestimating those great souls who are trying to decorate me and say, there's so much more potential here. Get rid of that thing. It doesn't look good on you. It's like, get rid of that armor. You ever see somebody that wears makeup and you're like, but you're beautiful. And this makeup just kind of makes it look like a funeral. But you don't know how to tell them, right? But you just want to tell them, you're like, oh, if you just got rid of all of that, you'd be so gorgeously glowing. But it's about how they're perceiving themselves. So, it's the same thing with us. All of these spiritual teachers are saying, you'd look so good without that armor. Like, why'd you put that up there? Like, it's all caked up and it's making lines where there weren't lines before. It's making you look older. It's making you look a little dead. It's a problem. Like, you could take that off. And we're like, no, this is my armor. I need this. This armor makes me look and feel beautiful. It's like, really? That? You look worse. So when those spiritual teachers are letting us know that we don't need that spiritual makeup, we don't need that spiritual foundation, like we don't need it. You don't need the skin serum. You don't need it. I want to stop resisting. Right? I want to stop resisting, and I want to let them work their magic. Like I want them to be like, all you need is a little bit of eyeliner of the love of God right here. Just you're good. With the lip gloss of the holy name, you're fine. So yeah, how can we let gratitude light up our lives? Just like this. Just like this. We come together and we laugh with each other and cry with each other and express our frustrations with each other and just gain some sense of comfort. We extend that understanding to each other because that understanding is none other than Krishna's mercy. That compassion is no less than Krishna's miracles. So yeah, in closing it out, I kind of want to open for like one more question or comment, but I have a condition. It has to be about a frustration. Frustration you have in life, a frustration you have with understanding something, has to be about a frustration. We're going to work through a frustration today.
I'm ready to do that.
Hey, let's go.
I'm sorry not being so present,
no.
but I'm crazy. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me now? Okay, my connection is unstable. So frustration. It's like I'm gonna be honest, like as honest as I can be, and I'm listening to you, and I really like, not just today, every time I listen to you and other persons that inspire me, and it seems like
I was talking with Leshvari the other day, talking about all the time having this feeling of having to come back again and again and again and again to that point of being inside, of being uh, with myself, or finding myself in the midst of everything that happens around me. And learning process and others' opinions about that philosophy and other things that come around in this world uh, seems like never ending. And um, it's like I tell myself every day that I am doing it right, that I am giving all my effort, and that is enough. And I have felt that I went through a transition, because I am not saying that, I'm sorry, this is too personal, but this is when I said that I wanted to be honest, because it's really, really personal. And that's the thing, that everything I have to say always is really personal, because I am in that place in trying to be with myself, right? In relation with everything that is happening around outside and also inside in different parts of me. So the thing is that, I mean, what I wanted to comment on specifically is this aspect of spiritual practice, at least for me, that is a never ending process of coming back always. And it's like things are added to this process. I won't deny it. um, every time, like, it's refreshing. Is I feel the life on it is not it's always upgrading. I recognize that. But it's sometimes I feel um like in this life I am this kind of person, and no matter what I do, I'm going to live the life I got, with all things added, of course, and this moving process, but with all the ideals and the expectations and the goals to get to. Sometimes I feel like I'm not going there. Like, it's just there, like, to inspire me or whatever, or like to nourish the process that I am in, but not that I am going to be there one day or anything. What to speak about Bhakti, Prema Bhakti, or like the highest goals, you know? So this frustrates me in one sense. And there is another part that is really beautiful, that is, as I said, like always upgrading, always renewing, like refreshing. But there is always, like, there deep inside, like that frustration, like, that is not going to happen, that is others example, that is others experience, is not your experience. Your experience is yours, and is this one, and like try to accept it. But I have that conflict. I have been practicing bhakti yoga like for 8 years or a little bit more. And at this point I am having kind of faith crisis or transitions, or and your words always come like really surprising and awesome. And there are few people that give me that, but still I keep having that frustration, that inner deep undeniable frustration. So I just wanted to let that out now that is the opportunity is given. And thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you. And thank you for being brave enough to like put your heart out there and really just kind of like, you know what? I am frustrated. Like, why? Why does it have to keep coming up? Why is it this thing? Why is it never like, okay, we've reached? Why is it always like, and then we ask again, have we reached? Where did we reach? There's even higher to reach. Like, but you didn't reach as high as that person. And it's like, okay, let alone reaching as high as those person. I can't even reach this person over here. Like, what is this? My groomer was just saying that when Ravana was being killed, it's a little bit like that. It's like, you ever think you've done all the things, learned the lessons, and then another head appears out of nowhere? And you're like, I just cut that one off. Like, what is happening? Like, you get into a thing. You're like, I went through Kartik, and Kartik, I gave up the Netflix, and it was like they say, 30 days for a habit. I should have a habit now. How did the habit get broken? Like, why did the habit not form? Like, what is the deal? I had just given up that. I had just renounced that thing. Why? What is this? Yeah. Same. Looking at it going, oh my goodness, why is they call it shadow work, Why is it never done? Why? Instead of, looking at it as a way to trap me. Like I said, I've been trying to look at it like Maya saying, are you sure? You sure you have a higher taste? I'm like, well, no, of course I wasn't sure. When I gave it up, it's like, well, get sure. You better get sure on what your higher taste is. She's going to help us weed out what is important and what is not important. And we can keep fooling ourselves. Right? And that's where the frustration comes in, because we're like, I climbed that mountain. It's like, did you? Haridas Thakur, he was approached by Maya. He's Namacharya. And he wasn't going to stop getting approached by prostitutes. Multiple times. Like, one would think he'd be thinking, there was a prostitute a couple decades ago. Like, I've crossed this. We've already come to the conclusion that I'm fine. Like, I've got no reason for it. But it's not always Krishna saying, ha, got you. You're going to stay entangled forever. It's not always Maya saying, ha, got you. Now you're going to stay entangled forever. Because with at least one of those prostitutes, what happened? She was changed by the holy name. Her entire life was different. So what if that test that we think is a test is not a test for us? What if we have climbed the mountain, but now our job is to tell somebody else how good the fruit is? Now we have the opportunity to say, guys, wait. I've been through this. It doesn't make us happy, but you know what does? Mangoes. I know you've never heard of mangoes, but I got it. I know a guy. They know about mangoes. What if that test isn't always for us when it comes back around and it's something that we battled? What if it's because somebody else needs us to say, I did this. Watch the miracle. What if we can let it be a miracle? And if it comes back and it is for us, what if it's Maya just saying, are you sure? You sure that's what's important? Because sometimes when we dive into these stories in Srimad Bhagavatam, and they're not just stories, but now they're playing out movies in our brains, it's easier to remember the habit that we broke during Kartik. It's easy to remember why. That tapasya we took on for 30 days or whatever it was, it's easy to remember why we did it. It's because we were filled up with something else. And that's what I feel is true renunciation. That's what I feel like is the lesson really learned. It's the thought process. We're so filled up on this one thing, I just don't have time. That's the lesson of Haridas Thakur being approached over and over again. Right? His story wasn't like, okay, you got one obstacle. It was one after another and varied obstacles. Some days it wasn't prostitutes. Some days it was beatings in 22 marketplaces where people have died by marketplace number 2. Sometimes it was, we think he's Namacharya, he's amazing, and yet and still somebody said to him, Your heritage is dirty. You're not allowed in here. They let Jesus in and not Haridas Thakur. He never went into Puri Temple. Sometimes the obstacle is somebody says, you don't look like me. You don't look like a God-fearing person. You don't sound like a person who has all a handle on spirituality. What kind of body is this that you have? Coming with all of its karma and all of its whatever else. I've decided you're not worthy. But anything that looks like the Lord has given in hunger can only end in feast. So Haridas Thakur did not enter Puri Temple, but what did he have? He had Mahaprabhu's constant association every single day. He had Mahaprabhu coming with his own hands and saying, here is Jagannath's Mahaprasad. Oh my Haridas, I'll feed you. Oh my Haridas. At the time that Haridas left the planet, Mahaprabhu picks him up and dances with his body. This is unheard of. But that was the result of the trials. I was just listening, and my Guru Maharaj was talking about the Pandavas. And he was talking about all of the trials that the Pandavas went through, and they're like, anybody who hears our story will never worship Krishna. Because all we had was issue after issue, after trouble. And you'd think, like, how much more spiritually advanced do you have to get? I'm God's cousin. Right? We've done everything just for Krishna. But when they hear the rewards, and Yudhishthir then says, he said, I was happier living in the forest with nothing than being emperor of the entire world. Living in the forest with nothing, I called out to my friend, and my friend came and saw me personally often. I needed Krishna to save me, so Krishna showed up. Now that I'm emperor, I have everything, and he's left me. So what if the obstacle is not God saying, watch this, I'll keep you trapped? What if it's God saying, watch, I'm making you the blueprint. There's a new miracle coming. We don't have a map for that yet. You're it. You're the map. What I love about Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is no two Vaishnavas have the same spiritual lives or the same spiritual path. There was one Namacharya. And I'm sure there were other people who chanted loads of rounds, but there was one Namacharya. But that doesn't mean that they didn't perfect their lives. Each devotee had a different way of going about their spirituality and perfecting it. And Mahaprabhu was so proud of all of them. It wasn't that you had to be Namacharya for him to be proud of you. He was proud of them all and found ways to praise them all. Just imagine what's waiting for us. Doesn't have to look like anybody else's. In fact, it's probably better if it doesn't. It's best when it looks just like ours, our path with the ups and the downs and the whatever. That's how Krishna knows it's us. It's like, oh, I almost got you confused with that dude. But no, it's you. This particular friend of mine, they react like this. They have these personality traits. It says Krishna would know every one of his 900 million cows. We think he doesn't know each one of us. And none of those cows were the same. So our spiritual lives can't all be the same. But Krishna's going to know it's us by how we deal with it. Even when we yell and kick and scream and we resist, it's like, come back home. I don't want to come home. It's like, but you're miserable. I am miserable. And come back home. It's uncomfortable. It's like, yeah, but only this part. And then it gets better. It never gets better. You've never done anything for me. Why are you doing this? You're horrible. He knows us. Yeah, they're going to do the thing. Sometimes he laughs, I'm sure. But he knows us because we are all individual and we have to go through these individual things. Sometimes there are blessings there. I guarantee you, my dear Shranga, you are a blueprint. You're not failing. You're a blueprint for someone. And that goes for all of you too. Everybody's a blueprint. That's it. I had no idea how awesome life could be until all of you. I promise, really.
Much
So
love and
thank you.
appreciation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being my blueprints. Thank you for being maps of showing me that, hey, things could be different. And when you feel frustrated, and I'm not going to say don't because we're going to feel frustrated, right? I mean, we're dealing with a supreme person who would play a flute after midnight in the darkest part of the forest, and he would play notes that only specific people could hear. Then when those specific people got there, he'd be like, why are you here? I don't know why you're here. Like, I was just playing my flute. I can't help it if you heard it. Really? You played my note. You mean to tell me you weren't calling me? No, I wasn't calling you. And then when they get frustrated and they're at the edge of like, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to pummel you or hurt myself. Like something has got to give. And he's like, okay. Sorry. I did call you. Go home. Like, what kind of answer is this? So if we feel frustrated, we should know that of all the things that end here, frustration is not. We take that with us. Krishna is going to find new ways to frustrate us because he's decided that that's how you show you care. It all seems really weird. And like in a therapy session, it wouldn't be good. I don't think he'd be able to tell the therapist all the things. Okay? It's like, so you do what to increase their what? Loving attachment. What do you do to them? It's like, well, yeah, sometimes I take everything that they love away. How does that help them? Then I see them and they see me for what we really are. It's like, this seems like a very bad game to play. Like, maybe you shouldn't play with these people's feelings like this. He's like, but then I always give it back tenfold. Once they've really shown me how much they love me, it's like, wait, and they showed you how much they love you by almost dying. Yeah, it's intense. You brought them to the brink of their sanity, and that's how you showed them that they loved you? Yes. Like, why did you do that? I like intense things. Like, I don't know how that would go as a therapy session. So he's kind of lucky that he's God. So the frustration is not going to end, but Lord Nityananda said to Lord Chaitanya, "Oh my Lord, you are very fond of troubling your very own people. So at the very least, when we get angry because he has troubled us with all the frustrations, at least we can say, I'm your own person. Why are you doing this to me?" Yeah. Yeah. It all comes down to understanding their personality. And, it is one of those can't live with him, can't live without him. And so sometimes, I abandon that aspect of the Supreme and I go to the other, more compassionate aspect. I'm like, Srimati Radharani, this is being mean again. Can you do something about this? Because I don't think that my body is meant to withstand so much of these trials. I don't think I was made for this. Can you help me? You understand. So, I'm really, really grateful that the Supreme is not just simply one dimensional here. So many dimensions, so many people to tell when he gets on your nerves. But also, when he makes those miracles, whew. Right? There's nobody that makes miracles like that person. So conversely, it's like the highest of the highs. There's nobody that's also going to drag you down to the depths. But we should know that all in all, there is no situation, absolutely none, where Krishna is not present beside us and with us always. I was just reading a section of the 4th canto. It was by accident. I was looking for something else, and I came upon the 4th canto. I think it's chapter 28. I kind of still have it open somewhere. I have also a lot. Yeah, chapter 28. Because I'm also like a hoarder and I never want to lose my place in anything. I have like 10 tabs with the database open. So I'm always like, is that the one? I was like, no, that's Bhagavad Gita. That's not the one. Is this the one? I was like, no, that's that other quote I wanted to remember. But that's not the one. I'm like, well, wouldn't it be easier if you just made a file in your notes? No, I have to have 10 tabs open. So chapter 28. And Krishna speaks about how he is the best friend. The best friend. And Srila Prabhupada uses that specific terminology, best friend, so much in that chapter. He appears as an old Brahmin to a woman who has just lost everything. Her husband has died of natural causes, but she had built her life around her husband. This woman had previously been a king called Maharaj Puranjan. In fact, the title is called Maharaj Puranjan Becomes a Woman. So her husband had just died, and she'd built her life around serving another person, which I don't think is a bad thing. We do it anyway, if we look closely. Whether it's a pet or a friend or a loved one or a superstar, we wind up building our lives around serving other people. So she's built her life around serving her husband, and then her husband dies of natural causes, and she's just kind of struck. She's thinking, everything that I had is now gone. And she begins crying and lamenting. And this old Brahmin shows up. He says, what are you crying for? She says, can't you see everything that I've had? I've lost. He's like, looks like you got everything right here. I mean, even your husband is here. I mean, he's just a pile of bones right now, but it's fine. He's still here. And this is not the only time that this teaching is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. But what I love is kind of directly after somebody says something like that, the next reply is always, why are you saying this at this time? It's like wildly inappropriate. So if we could understand, even from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, that it was inappropriate then, we have to kind of be careful how we preach to people who've just lost people. Right? I feel like devotees love funeral preaching. Now's the time where it's like, they're not the body, never lament, never mourn, you're fine. And we have to remember that even in Srimad Bhagavatam, anybody who's gone through that loss, the first thing like, what? Why are you telling me this? This is wholly inappropriate. The thing to remind them is what the Lord always says next. There's more. There's so much more. This pain that you're feeling, this incredible, deep-rooted separation, there's more. But it also has an origin. This pain and separation that you're feeling has its origin in our separation from that Supreme Person. Remember the actual original source of this pain. As much as you miss this person right here, we actually miss our Supreme Lord even more. So this old Brahmin comes, speaks, and talks about the best friend. Says the Brahmin continued, "My dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted a position as enjoyer of this material world." That that was one of those quotes where I wound up, I was reading it and then crying. It's all the things. And I was like, it's true, he really is my best friend. I wasn't just kind of faking it till I make it. I wasn't just saying this for the internet. It's true. Because sometimes, what do you do when you're most afraid? You act like you're not. What do you do when you feel the most abandoned? Well, that's my best friend. It's fun. It's another thing when we can actually we're like, oh, wait, I feel it. It's really there. So I wound up, I was looking for something else and I stumbled on that chapter. And then I wound up reading the whole chapter. Purports and everything. Wasn't short, not a short chapter. But I wound up reading the whole thing. And it wasn't early. It was like some middle of the night time. And I don't even remember, I don't remember what I was looking for. But that hijacked my whole moment. The next day I felt really proud of myself. I was like, wow. Instead of binge watching, I finally binge read a chapter. Finally. That's not to say that tomorrow that mood might be back, like binge watching. It's back now. But, for one day I binge read. Let us celebrate the small victories. Sometimes in spiritual life, we're very much focused on what helps us grow out of these situations. So we're very focused on, yeah, but you have so much more left to go, right? You're not perfect yet. So let's think about the road ahead. But also maybe we need a second to celebrate the victories. Maybe it wasn't today, but there was a day where I binge read. And it was such a good chapter. And I felt like, wow, Krishna's really there. He's sitting beside me. Maybe one day we read something and it stopped just being words on a page and really we felt it, we heard it, we saw it. That is a victory. We need those victories because sometimes they feel so far and few in between. It's like, yeah, but then I was struggling for the next 15 years. But you had one really good year. So maybe we just needed to clear out the other stuff. But you had one good year. Now, I mean, how do we categorize the good and bad years of the Pandavas? For us, 14 years, 13, 14 years, 12 years, and then a 13-year in anonymity, that sounds like bad years. And externally, they looked like they were suffering. They had nothing. Internally, they're rejoicing because Krishna's with them every moment. And they're really calling out with feeling for Krishna to be there with them every moment. Without having to worry about administration. Without having to worry about taxes. Without having to worry about somebody's fisherman husband left home and they didn't get him back. And they have to go find where he went. He's off living with another family. They don't have to worry about any of that. All of the day in and day out of being the government, they don't have to worry about it. Now, they have years, over a decade, to focus on how Krishna is going to save them. To really call out to Krishna with faith. So how do we categorize good and bad years for them? Me, I would think, well, the times when you were emperor, those are great years. You had everything. Yeah. And they're like, but then we were in the throes of material life. Binge watching. Because they'd have long celebrations with like live entertainment. Just because their entertainment wasn't over the internet doesn't make it any less a binge watching. Like, you watched a dance for 6 hours? Yes. So they were back in the throes of whatever else was happening. So good and bad, it's relative. So our spiritual progress, if we're looking at it like that was a bad day, was it? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was actually a good day. Maybe it was still a good day because you never forgot Krishna. Even in being frustrated with yourself. Oh, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just surrender? That right there changes everything. Even being frustrated with ourselves about why we can't surrender. But surrender to who? To Krishna? Up, because we just remembered him. The day has been made better. Just the idea of surrender goes so hand in hand with surrendering to Krishna. It's a good day. Because we remembered Krishna. And an even better day tomorrow because, Lord willing, we'll wake up and we'll have another chance. So don't let the externals fool you. Don't let them get you down. And remember that it doesn't take much for Mahaprabhu to be proud of us. He's so beautifully simple-hearted that it doesn't take much for him to be proud of us. I told myself that just a few hours ago. There was weird anxiety. I don't know where it came from. Couldn't figure out I couldn't figure out what was causing it. All I knew is I felt uncomfortable. Chest, heart racing, can't breathe, all the things. I'm like, what is the deal? In anxiety, can't sleep. What do I do? And I was like, you know what? I'll just like zone out. I'll just put on something and zone out. And then I thought to myself, why don't you make an experiment? You've been doing this whole thing, right? Like all the time you're saying it just takes a moment. Why don't you give the anxiety to Krishna? Chant around, see how you feel. Can't be any worse. So I did it. And it still wasn't gone. And so then I told myself, what if you just chant till it's gone? I'm like, well, what if this anxiety isn't gone? Well, at least you chanted your japa. And so it so happened that I wound up chanting japa. And it wound up being at somewhere near 4:30 in the morning. And it had nothing to do with me trying to be a good devotee. Everything to do with me trying to figure out how to get over a panic attack. But this is Krishna. He's tricky. But what he'll also do is he'll uplift you and make you look better than you are. Because now he's like, look, see? Chanted japa at 4:30 in the morning. Looks great. And he accepts it as that. It's like, I'll take it. In full thing, I was like, but that wasn't even my aim. I wasn't even trying. He's like, I know. It's fine. I'm still accepting the whole thing. I'm giving you all credit for it. I'm like, really? All? I don't even deserve that. That's mercy. That's causeless mercy. Causeless mercy is Krishna giving you all benefits for chanting panic attack japa. So, if you find yourself in a situation where you can't stop thinking about something that's worrying you, at least worry and chant japa at the same time. It can't get any worse, but it could also always get better. And even if you think, well, my mind is not constantly thinking of the pastimes of Radha Krishna. Okay. So, do it anyway. Let's just try it and see. Even if our japa is a constant meditation of, oh my Lord, fix my life. Okay? Just keep chanting no matter what. And Krishna will make us look better than we definitely think we should look. Because that's our Krishna. He's going to give us the issues. But he's also going to make us look way better than we deserve. Because that's his heart full of causeless mercy. So also, I've tried to think about it, when the obstacles come. I'm like, what if Krishna was so eager? Like, he just wanted to talk to me so much and he knew I wouldn't give him my attention. But he's so eager that now he's going to all these crazy lengths just to get me to pay attention to him. What if it has nothing to do with making me miserable and everything to do with, I know we've tried this, but you never pay attention to me. And I just want you to look at me because I've just been waiting to see you. Then stalking is not stalking if you enjoy it. The troubles are not troubles if we're like, oh, but that's so romantic. Oh, look at that. Our Supreme Lord. And, to the outside world, they're like, really that? Like, you look at the crucifixion, right? And you're like, I'm sorry, how is that an example of God's love on you? But Jesus never stopped praying. He never stopped praying. The only thing he feared was feeling far away from God. Having that feeling of wait, no matter, I don't care what's done to me. Just don't ever forsake me. Just don't ever leave me. So those are the times where outside we're like, that? Are you saying all about that? The person's like, yeah, look. That's how I know he loves me. I know it's a little different. But that's how he shows it. He's my friend, really. It's like, but you're poor. It's like, I know, but that's how I know he's my friend. And when Sudama was so poor that there was even a little bit of pride in there. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says he was proud of his tapasya. A little bit. To free him from that pride, Krishna says, by my causeless mercy, I'll give you more wealth than anybody has ever had. And that's just one of the reasons why he does what he does. So when we're at our lowest, we should be thinking, I know who you are, my friend. And if I'm feeling this low, then I have to know that an even bigger blessing is coming. It's like a rubber band, right? It's like a boomerang. If there's something that low, we have to know that a bigger blessing than whatever we're going through is coming. Because that's how Krishna does math. It's not equal. I don't know why he does that, but that's how he does math. So in parting, the last thing I will say is I'll just reiterate that one more time. No matter how low things look, we have to know that because we know who Krishna is and we'll have faith in who Krishna is, an even bigger blessing is coming. If we felt frustrated, then an even bigger high must be coming. If we felt left, then an even bigger reunion must be coming. Because that's who Krishna is. And they say he's God, so he doesn't have to do anything, but I'm holding him to that one. Like, I know that you don't have to do it, but you do have to do this. Otherwise, God or not, I don't care who you are, we're going to fight. I've seen some people. I've seen the Cowherd Boys. I've seen the Gopis. They've beat him. I'm just going to follow in their footsteps. So there might not be things that he has to do, but he does have to be there for me. because we're friends, and that's what he said he does. So you have to be there for me with really big, awesome blessings. So thanks for being with me through this 3-hour Patreon meeting. Every time I think we're gonna go, I'm gonna cut it short today. That doesn't ever work. But thank you for asking questions. Thank you for voicing your frustrations, because I really, really, really like. There should be at least one frustration voiced, so that we can all. Because really, I guarantee you, you're not the only one. I guarantee you, we're all feeling like that. In our own ways, with our own language, we're all feeling the same thing. And Krishna is going to give us innumerable miracles in our own language, in our own way. He's going to give us the fruit that tastes the sweetest to us. So I guarantee you, your fruit is coming. It's like on Christmas, one of those things they give in America is a fruit cake. Nobody likes it because apparently people make it really badly. But I feel like if Krishna did it, it would be awesome. And he's going to make sure that the fruitcake has all the special things for us that we love. But also probably there's going to be something in there that annoys us, like a cardamom pod just in the center when you're least expecting it, and you bite into it and it assaults your mouth, right? Or a clove. And then you bite into the clove, and then the clove fights back and it bites you back. Like that's so even though he's going to give us the best fruitcake for us, I guarantee you in there's going to be like a clove or a cardamom pod, something that you specifically don't like, a fennel seed, something. You're like, you know what I don't like? That it's also going to be in there so that we can relish the goodness of the rest of the fruitcake. But we're going to have another session. The next session probably will be in like 2 weeks. So maybe just after Christmas. And it'll be on what's the reward. So we talked about like how gratitude can kind of like light up our lives. But what's the payoff? What's the reward? I'll read some more from Premamala. We'll talk more about from Srimad Bhagavatam. Trust me, you don't want to miss it because I'm already looking forward to it. See how I planned it out already? You don't want to miss it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be simple for the simple, but also not easy, but really simple. Because also, that's God. So until next time, I love you all. I want to thank you all for being here. Yes, thank you to Shardia for always having questions. Thank you for Sharanga for being our brave, like, Krishna's bow. You know? Thank you.
We love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leela Mandri, for always being awake, even though wherever she is, it's always 3 hours earlier than whatever time we have to meet up. So she always has to meet up at like 7 a.m. And then if I give a lecture at 7:15, she has to wake up at 4:15, which that's dedication. So thank you. Thank you for all of our friends for being here. Next time, feel free to invite a friend. Get someone that you trust and give them the gift of a session with all of us. Can't wait for it. Like I said, already planned it out. So it's going to be loads of fun. And I can't wait to hear what realizations you all come with after these 2 weeks of remembering Krishna in our lives and really letting that gratitude light us up. So remember, totally remember, celebrate the small victories. They're there. And then hold Krishna to his promises. I feel like sometimes he gets lazy on the job, sometimes he forgets. Like I'm like, did you forget the blessing part? Because that's also supposed to be here in a timely manner. Okay? And more than that, remember that I love all of you. Like really truly. And if you think that I love you and that's something, my best friend is way better than me at this. He's so much better than me at this. I have such a hard time. I leave messages and messages on read while I respond in my mind and never send the messages. I'm bad. Krishna doesn't do that. He's such a better friend than me. So if you think you're like, wow, she's really cool, my friend is way better. I promise. So until next time, I'll continue sharing. For those of you who are in the Patreon list, for $5 a month, you guys are going to get some really awesome things. They just had a japa meditation. There's another one coming. There's going to be more of those since I have to chant japa daily. So anytime is a good time to record because, I have to do that a lot. So chanting japa is a thing. So we'll be chanting japa together in these meditation videos more and more. And you're going to miss out if you don't join. I mean, think about the things that we spend $5 on a month. Even if that's a lot in whatever currency you have, I bet you spend more on something that's like a one-time thing and you never see it again. Also, one of my, there's a comedian that I really like. He's like, I've been putting out like free content for a long time. It's true. I have hours and it's like hundreds of hours of free content. If it's ever inspired you, can I just borrow $5? Even if it's just 1 month, can I borrow $5? And in all honesty, these help me to keep giving you more content. Really, honestly, the less I have to worry about anything else, the more that I can just focus on just making the content. Because there's some times in a day where I'm like, oh, this is such a great story. I really just want to tell everybody this story. I'm like, but I have to tell them the backstory. Okay, that's like a 4-hour video. Fine, I'll figure it out. And then, life, bills, New York, expenses, internet connections. So, the more somebody has been helped and they just decide to give me $5, the more offerings I can give and the more people I can help. And that's pretty much my goal. Not to become rich for the sake of being rich would be nice. No, wouldn't be nice. I'm trying to be a good devotee. That wouldn't be nice. But it would enable me to help more of you. And it would enable me to bring these events more in person. Because isn't that what we want? To be able to be with each other again and do kirtan and sing with each other and talk to each other. Unfortunately, that takes money in this planetary system. So thank you all for your support. And if you haven't, join in, because I've stopped letting everything else get in the way. And now I'm really kind of focusing on streamlining some more patron content because you guys deserve it. You guys are keeping me alive in more ways than one. Because it's not really about the monetary value. It's the encouragement. Shukadev Goswami says, I'm only able to do this because you people are eager to hear. If nobody ever wanted to listen to it, I guarantee you I'd stop doing this. But people keep listening. So Krishna's mercy, I'll keep saying the ramblings that come into my mind. Also, there is no amount that is so small. Every amount of support that comes in for this Govinda prayer ministry is absolutely a dream come true, because this was literally something that popped out of my mouth. I wasn't serious about it. I was talking to my mom and I said it and I said, I don't even know where that came from. I don't want this. It's not something I want. And then I kind of thought, but what if it's something Krishna wants? It's kind of more important than if I want it or if it makes me comfortable. So this is something that I do with hopefully the idea that this is something that Krishna wants. I hope and pray that I'm making our friend happy by hopefully making you all happy. And I will see you all in about 2 weeks. I'll give a double check on exactly which day, but I'll see you all in about 2 weeks. It'll be lots of fun. In between that, this week is a big week. Tuesday is Ekadashi. for me in New York, and so that means an Ekadashi lecture. It is also the day of Gita Jayanti, so that may mean an extra live from me later on, because there's too much to be said about Gita Jayanti in 25 minutes. So there will be a Vaishnava Ekadashi series lecture in the morning, and then there will probably be another live from me later that day, because I really love that day. And then the very next day, that Wednesday, is a class for Hare Krishna Africa, Srimad Bhagavatam lecture. So that's a lot of me this week. It's a lot. I look forward to seeing you all. Those will all be open events, and the details will be passed around on flyers shortly. But I look forward to seeing you all then, and I can't wait to experience more things with you and hear about more of your frustrations and resonate with them, because yes, why? God, why? But also resonate with the miracles that come back. So now that we've expressed the frustration, we have to come back with a miracle. So now that's your goal, Sharanga. Now that you've expressed that frustration, now you have to come back next time with a miracle. And then somebody else will have to give a frustration so that next time they come back with a miracle. Like, we'll rotate. Maybe next time I'll come back with both.
It's already a miracle to be able to hear about frustrations in this way. So I feel, yeah,
but we're gonna ask, because now what Krishna does is normally he's like, yeah, I was giving them before, but watch this. So I can't wait to see what his version of that was in your life. And so this is how we keep each other held together. This is how we keep each other functioning, because this place is, but we can make it through together. All of us are on the boat now. All right, I'll see you all soon. Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki jai. Shri Krishna Chandra Bhagavan ki jai. All glories to our best friend. All glories to all of you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.